Vivek Ramaswamy, you got it right last night. The choice in New Hampshire is clear. Take a listen to what he said at this gala rally.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump. If you want to fight inflation, vote Trump.
All right, we welcome now back to the show Ramaswamy, Vivek Ramaswamy, former 2024 candidate. Vivek, thanks for coming back on. I loved all the things you said. But the one thing that I really liked, you're probably the only one mentioning this, is about draining the swamp. I just have this sense that it's a sub rosa issue, but that a lot of folks believe that Mr. Trump has the strength and the determination, CIA, FBI, Justice Department, all these institutions, IRS, that he's the guy to do that. It's kind of like an unspoken issue, Vivek.
It needs to be a spoken issue, Larry, and I do think that Donald Trump is the right man to get this job done. I was in this race to do the same thing, and I will do everything in my power to actually make it happen, shut down that deep state. We, the people, create a government that is supposed to be accountable to us, Larry, not the other way around. And that means, at the very least, the people who we elect to run the government ought to once again be the ones who actually run the government, not the unelected bureaucrats. And so I think we need to shut down about 75% of that bureaucracy, send about 75% of those bureaucrats back home packing, shut down agencies that should no longer exist, downsize others. That's how you revive the economy, by the way, but it's also how you revive our constitutional republic. And I do think Donald Trump is the right man to get this job done. I'm betting on in a second term, even at a greater scale than that first term. I think that's exactly what we're going to get.
Vivek, on this, it's such an important issue. Look, I don't want to abolish the FBI. That is not my view, or the CIA. But I think there have to be, after what's happened with all the phony charges, particularly against Mr. Trump, but not only Mr. Trump, making stuff up, using political campaigns for the CIA or the FBI or parts of the Justice Department for a two-tier justice system, you got to have a house cleaning. There's just got to be a house cleaning. And I know this issue, too, hasn't particularly come up yet, Vivek, but I think it's very important.
Well, look, let me see if I can convince you on this one, Larry, on the FBI. I actually do think that the right answer can't be just to swap a figurehead. I think you actually do have to shut down and reorganize. And I've laid out a very practical plan for doing this, and I'll intend to share it with Donald Trump at the right time when he asks me about it. Is 35,000 employees at the FBI right now. 20,000 of them are back office bureaucrats. I think they can go home packing. That's where a lot of the corruption comes from. But the 15,000 cops on the front lines, we can move them to the DEA or to the U.S. Marshals, both of whom have been far more effective at fighting child sex trafficking rings or the fentanyl epidemic, and actually improve effectiveness that way. Move them to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Bureau at the U.S. Treasury, which actually has more specialization to go after the FTXs and the future SBFs and financial fraudsters of the country. And so I think at once we can shut down these bureaucracies, but be smart about how we reorganize some of them into bureaus or agencies that have not been corrupted in the same way. It's still, for God's sake, the J. Edgar Hoover building that people walk into every day for work. So they celebrate that legacy, Larry. And so I do think that shutting this down, but doing it in a way that is reasoned and actually rational, in the way that a CEO would, can actually shut down these agencies in a way that leaves us better off, not worse off.
Another one, Vivek, the misuse of foreign intelligence for political purposes.
Yes.
Now, we single out the CIA. It's not only the CIA. It's the whole defense and intelligence community, if you will. I mean, stuff has happened in the last bunch of years that should never have happened. And to this day, I don't know who's been accountable, who's been doing this, whether the buildings have been, swept and replaced and reformed. But this, too, I think it's in the back of people's minds, and I think it's going to affect their voting.
And I think this is what the American Revolution was actually fought for, Larry. And I don't use that hyperbolically. I think in a real sense, for most of human history, including in old world Europe, the worldview was the people cannot be trusted to self-govern. It has to be people in the back of palace halls in the old world Europe, today in the back of three-letter government agency buildings, or in the back of BlackRock's corner office on Park Avenue, for that matter. That these decisions get made on how or whether to serve national security interests or fight climate change or address racial injustice. And what we said in 1776 is no. For better or worse, we the people decide those questions at the ballot box, where every citizen's voice and vote counts equally. And sometimes, Larry, this is the thing to understand about that deep state and the administrative state. The people who are committing what you and I view as those violations, they think they're doing the right thing out of benevolence because the people cannot be trusted to self-govern. And so it almost comes from a place of wicked benevolence, actually, which is a twist. And the reality is we, the people, have to say that, no, we make the decisions, not the bureaucrats. And that's what I want to see in a second Trump term.
Yeah, they perverted that whole system, surveillance, and oh, my gosh. Anyway, Vivek, thank you ever so much for coming on. Thank you for the rally last night. We're most grateful. Appreciate it. Talk soon.